Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Homeowners insurance increasing or deductible too high? Call, click, or come in. Save it, Dave. Dave Miette Insurance Agency.
For over 48 years, Southern Tires and Auto Repair has provided services across the New Orleans metro area. Southern Tires offers a range of tires for all vehicles and ATVs. We also have a full suite of auto repair options, including brake repair, rim repair, custom exhaust, steering and suspension, tire siping, and so much more. Southern Tires and Auto Repair, 2550 Hickory Avenue in Metairie.
CNC Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, CNC provides patient-centered care for your entire family. CNC Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we'll cover all the home teams, the New Orleans Saints, the New Orleans Pelicans, LSU, Tulane, UNO, Loyola. We'll cover it all. And of course, we're live from our Pontchartrain Production Studios on a, not a bad day in New Orleans. Doesn't look good, but the temperatures are beautiful, no doubt about it. To break it down for us, one of the best we have in the city, Sean Fazende of Fox 8 Sports is our guest. Sean, welcome to the show. Hope you had a happy Mardi Gras.
I did.
And of course, the city was alive once again. It was so good to be able to see that. And the weather cooperated for the most part. And 2 years in hiatus. And now here we go, because festival season, Final Four, we're off and running now to the summer.
Yeah, hopefully this starts the wave of some positive momentum here, because God knows we need it in this city right now.
No doubt.
So certainly Mardi Gras felt like it had a little different juice, a little different energy. I was down there Mardi Gras Day, South Claiborne and Jackson, then I walked up and down St. Charles with Fox 8. I was able to get out there Sunday as well.
You were Rocky Balboa?
I was Rocky Balboa, the Italian stallion.
Yes.
So I was able to do that, and it was the crowds were great. The weather was awesome. And then Sunday I was able to get out there at the Toth. To watch the crew at Toth, and I had a great time there. I took my kids out to that one, and where we were kind of where downtown and uptown meet a little bit, it really was a great spot, and we had a really good time. So yeah, it looks like they had a nice string of good weather. Looked like they had, for the most part, I know there was some issues, but for the most part it was free of controversy. Yep. So hopefully this is the start of some positive momentum here, because we need it.
Well, we definitely do. There's no doubt we definitely need that. I hope we're blessed with some positive vibes going forward. And again, we got a lot on our plate tonight on the program. Before we get started, tell us about Fox 8, everything that's going on, your award-winning blog, the podcast, which changes now a little bit because Chris Hagan has moved on to the private sector. Y'all did a great job as a tandem doing that. Talk a bit about everything going on at Fox 8.
Yeah, well, first off, I'm not sure how we're going to, we're still going to do the podcast. Right. I'm just going to figure out who's going to kind of take the lead on that, because he and I were such a tag team with that, and we had really kind of grown into a role with that. So we'll figure it out, whoever that person may be. I know the last time we did one was Garland, myself, and Chris. Obviously, Chris is no longer with Fox 8. Then we have Sunday night, we have the final play. Tuesday night, we have Fox 8 overtime. But now we're getting to the part of the calendar where you normally have a little gap, but because there was the Sean Payton uncertainty and the hire new coach, you didn't have the gap that you normally have. We have flown right into NFL Combine, which means a lot of news happening, a lot of signings, a lot of deals, a lot of leaks. So stay tuned because a lot of news should be on the way with the Saints.
There's no doubt. Well, of course, you're talking about, you got this week is the Combine. March 8th, which is right around the corner, by 3 p.m., all teams have to be able to name either their franchise taggee or their transition taggee. Again, we'll have to keep an eye on what's going to happen with Marcus Williams on that here in New Orleans. March 16th is the new year. Now, all teams have to be under the cap by that point. We're going to talk about the cap in a minute with the Saints. And then, of course, also, again, the free agency begins. The legal tampering period between the 14th and the 16th, the legal tampering period, which is, again, where a lot of the deals are getting done. And then something different that we haven't seen around New Orleans in a long time. April the 4th is the first day that a team that has a new head coach can start OTAs. Now, the Saints did not do OTAs the last 2 years. 2020 was because of COVID. Last year was again Peyton's choice not to go into OTAs. But I'm wondering again, and I'm hoping that Dennis Allen's going to take advantage of, again, the opportunity to have an early OTA, especially, again, with the changeover, with the coaching staff, the roster, putting his footprint on this. And then April the 18th is when everybody else can start their OTAs. And then, of course, the 28th through the 30th of April is the NFL draft. So very condensed.
Right here we are. March
to April with everything that's going on. And now's the time, really, again, where we're starting to see the Saints kind of make some moves internally to be able to get under the cap. And Sean, you and I have talked about this for a long time. When Mickey Loomis, Kai Harley, when they're developing a contract for a player, they have safety valves in those contracts to be able to open up cap room for future years, and we're seeing that now. The advent of the dummy years, which again I don't know if that was invented by Loomis, but again it's been taken advantage of by Loomis, giving them a 5-year window to be able to spread out a signing bonus, which they've taken base salaries or again what is it? Base salaries or the other bonus is
the signing bonus, roster bonus.
The roster bonus, and converted it to a signing bonus. They did it with Ramczyk, did it with Thomas, and they did it with Andres Pete this past weekend, and created. They're $33 million over the cap right now. They created about $34 million in cap space. So, not something unexpected. And if we look at the roster right now, there's a lineup of players that are highly paid in terms of the salary cap that are going to be in line to be able to restructure those deals as well.
Yeah, you still have Taysom Hill's contract out there. You have Alvin Kamara's contract out there. Marshawn Lattimore is really the big one. You can almost probably come all the way back down with Marshawn Lattimore's contract. So I would fully expect that some sort of adjustment to happen. When these things actually happen in terms of when they choose to do it, only they know. But it has to happen within the window of getting under the salary cap. It's something they have to do every year. They're comfortable doing it. It's nothing in terms of genius. It's nothing in terms of bad management. It's all in terms of they are mandated to get under the cap, and they do it. If you want to talk about the foresight is the way they structure the contracts in advance.
Yes.
That is the genius.
Yes.
Not necessarily getting back under the cap. You said it, that voidable year loophole has become basically their go-to. I mean, they've always done the convert and roster bonus convert or base salary conversion. They've always done that. But to add voidable years, which I think they did with Michael Thomas as well.
Yeah, they did.
Which creates even more space. I am stunned that that's still. I don't know if that was ever intended in the salary cap, but they've exploited it and they've kept it there. Probably the NFL has because of the COVID years. Because what it allows you to do is pay later, but hopefully by the end of this year you can pay later when the salary cap is higher, so when the bill comes, it's not a bigger percentage of the cap. There are some drawbacks to that. We'll see it with Teron Armstead this year if he does not re-sign.
$13 million, right?
$13 million if he doesn't sign.
Right. Because of again, look, he's been a guy that has continually reworked his deal to give the Saints cap room. Adding those dummy years now, come back now at this point if he doesn't re-sign to be able to haunt them. Which again, I want to go there first, and I want to come back to the restructures that were over the weekend. They're in a tough spot. I mean, on one hand, do you want to eat $13 million and allow him to go elsewhere? Again, what was the average?
That's a double whammy right there.
Right. Okay. I mean, you're right. Or do you want to say, look, He's one of the best left tackles in football when he's healthy. Bite the bullet, pay him what he's going to get paid. We know we can spread that over the cap. And hopefully again there's no COVID situation where we're going to see again a deficit within the NFL where they got to spread that out over to the players' side. Or again, do you just say, you know what, we're going to eat it. We got Ramczyk. We're going to flip him over, and we're going to start anew at the right tackle position. Where do you think they go?
Oh, it's tough.
I mean, it really is.
I mean, because he's right on the line of, he's going to get injured during the season, but he's such a warrior when he plays, and he's so good when he plays. Is there enough there to offset it? He's turning 30 this year, I believe, 31 years old.
Right.
How long is the contract? What is it worth? And you can make the numbers work. They do it all the time.
Right.
And you add in the fact that if you lose out, you still suck with a $13 million bill, and you got to pay that one. You can't voidable year that one. That is the voidable year.
Is, right.
I don't know. I would love to have Teron Armstead back. I think the Saints would love to have Teron Armstead back, but if Cincinnati or Jacksonville or any one of these teams in the market for a veteran left tackle comes in and says, I'm going to give you $22 million, $23 million a season, that might be hard to top because they could be willing to give him a longer-term deal, which could be more enticing to him, whereas the Saints probably would be in the neighborhood of a 2 to 3 year deal.
Right. It's interesting because, again, we think Ramczyk can play the left side, okay?
He did when he started his career.
Right. So the other part of it is you believe Hurst can come back and man the right side for you. You had Landon Young last year, who again played with a broken foot, and there's some pretty good tackles in this draft as well. But again, he's a guy that plays through injury. Even though he's injured, he plays through it. It is a tough spot for the Saints right now.
It really is, and you can go either way with it. I still slightly lean towards him going elsewhere because I just think the payday is going to be too big.
And this is his last contract, right?
This is his last contract. I could see him, especially for a team like Cincinnati, who's in the Super Bowl. You're not supposed to make the Super Bowl when that's your biggest weakness, and they did. So to bring a guy like Teron Armstead, he could be the missing piece. I will see what happens with him, but I don't know. You could go either way with that because I know this new philosophy of building through the line of scrimmage, they believe so heavily in that. So if you're going to let a guy like that walk, you really got to replace him with probably two, a veteran and a draft pick. Because I like James Hurst. He's very versatile. He's come in handy a lot over the last year, but I think he's best in that reserve utility role as opposed to a guaranteed starter every single week.
You'd rather him to be the guy coming off the bench, like we've seen Clemente and so many others, that they've done a great job with that.
Absolutely.
And you hate to lose also the leadership in a transition year as well. Not saying they don't have leaders on the offensive side of the ball. Sure they do. You're also, again, trying to woo a quarterback to New Orleans. Okay?
Yeah.
And again, if you got your bookend tackles, that's maybe a little bit easier. Than obviously, again, trying to go with starting anew at the right tackle position. All this conversation about Michael Thomas out the door has evaporated now.
It's done.
$14.65 million, rework of his deal. Again, they added the dummy years to that contract. I mean, at this point, they can't afford to get rid of him. Because of where he is.
And we were able to. I know that I'd heard that earlier in the off season. This was even around. The coaching search time that was out there. That any new coach is going to have to. They're going to have to accept the fact that Michael Thomas is going to be there, and obviously DA is very familiar with Michael Thomas. So organizationally, when you have such a big hole, it was so obvious last year. Like. The worse they looked in the wide receiver pass catching room, the more attractive Michael Thomas got with the quote unquote issues and all. At that point, he just became so much more worth it regardless. And he certainly feels like, who knows when it comes to social media with these guys, but it certainly feels like there is a renewed focus. There is he called it a fresh start, whatever the case may be. If he's motivated, that's great. Because whoever the quarterback is, they've got QB1 and wide receiver 1 have to be on the same page.
Absolutely.
So Michael Thomas is a guarantee. It's a known. He's the best first-level receiver in the NFL. So now they reworked the contract. He's back probably not just this year, but for a couple of years.
Ramczyk, $18.2 million Again, rework of his deal, opening up cap room, added dummy years to his deal as well. Now, there's a clause in his contract that ultimately, if he flips to the left side, he gets more money. So again, it'll be interesting to see again how that kind of plays out. And then, of course, Andres Pete took his base salary and converted $8 million of that base salary in $9.73 million of that base salary into $8 million of cap space for the team. Not unexpected. He's a guy that I think this would have been next year would have been the year that you could have voided out of his deal. Now that's off the table.
Yeah.
He's here long term as well.
Yeah, I mean, that one of all of them might have been, because I don't know you had to go there.
No, you didn't have to.
You didn't have to.
Not his.
It was interesting that they chose that. Is that a tell for something that maybe they're expecting to lose another starter, and they want to keep as much continuity as possible?
If you lose it to Armstead, you want to make sure you
have some kind of continuity. That's an interesting one, because that basically that locks you in with him for a couple of more seasons. And I thought you were going to probably get out of that by this year or next year.
Well,
not the case now.
I was looking at that void again, where you could get out, which is next year, and it wasn't going to cost you as much against the cap. That's out the window now. So again, when you look at that situation, the coaching staff. What were your thoughts on again how it finally boiled out? The biggest surprise to me was Curtis Johnson not being retained. They bring in Cody Burns as the wide receivers coach, ex-Auburn player, had coached at Tennessee. There was a lot of talk about John Morton coming back. That kind of evaporated, even though it was reported.
Yeah, I was told that evaporated. Funny, I saw CJ at Zulu earlier on Tuesday. Just briefly chatted with him, not about that, but nonetheless, whispers about that last year, that perhaps it could be his last year, and whatever was going to happen, he was probably going to be done. You bring in Tennessee wide receivers coach Cody Burns, and he's the only new face, and if Johnny Morton's name was original, that's another familiar face.
Yes,
so,
of course.
To me, there really was no huge shock. Doug Marrone, people forget, he was a great offensive line coach in 06 when he got his 06, 07, and 08. And he's one of those guys probably underrated as a coach, even a head coach, because I think he's had more success than people realize. Done some good things in a couple different spots, Syracuse, Buffalo, Jacksonville. I think he was on Nick Saban's staff, so obviously you got to have
offensive line coach.
You got to have the trust of Nick Saban to be on that staff. So I like that hire. You already had the co-defensive coordinator thing. To me, was giving two guys a title. Probably a little bit of, hey, I want to keep you guys, so I'm going to give you this title. I have no idea who's going to call plays. Probably a little more. The prestige of the title, maybe a little more money. I still feel like they're going to be doing the exact same thing, because I still feel like Dennis Allen's going to call plays on game day. Maybe you get to conduct a few more meetings, maybe have a little more input in the game plan. One's a run game guy, one's a passing game guy. They kept the linebackers coach, who I think is a bright young coach on the scene. So I think all in all, DA promised continuity. The Saints wanted continuity. Guess what they got? Continuity. Yes. Every one of those guys, with the exception of one, has ties here.
All right, let's talk continuity. Quarterback. More and more, we keep hearing Jameis Winston. We're going to run it back with Jameis. Is that a long-term deal? Is that a 2-year deal? Is there a market? Some believe, again, Pittsburgh's going to be hot and heavy for him. They may give the Saints a run for their money. What's your gut?
My gut is not Jameis.
Not Jameis.
My gut is Teddy right now.
Okay.
Teddy Bridgewater.
That was talked about earlier before Dennis Allen was even.
That's my gut right now, because Dennis Allen is a defensive-minded head coach, and he basically reiterated, I want somebody who's going to take care of the football. And I just think there's when you talk about Jameis and you talk about Teddy, I think there's a little bit more of a trust level with Teddy Bridgewater. And I think he was fine with being a bridge guy, or that's where he's at in his career. He's going to be a bridge guy. I think if you go to Teddy route, at some point you draft a young guy, either this year or next year. Either this year or next year. Which I'd be fine with, because that could be a competition.
I have no problem with a bridge guy either, whether it's Jameis or Teddy.
Here's the thing: other than Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson, which who knows what's available with them, is there any quarterback right now that you'd be willing to commit to long term? When I say long term, 3 years or more. Is there one? I mean, you can maybe make a case for Jimmy Garoppolo. because he's got a little bit of a
Yeah,
resume.
but he's injured right now and probably won't be ready till camp.
Exactly.
And it's a shoulder injury.
It's a shoulder injury, and he had to deal with the thumb. And
right. And it's his throwing shoulder.
Throwing shoulder and throwing thumb, if I'm not mistaken. So,
all right, let's say Derek Carr. Now, there was a rumor that maybe he was going to sign an extension. That hasn't happened yet, but
Josh McDaniels, if I'm not mistaken, at the Combine spoke very highly of him.
Right, so, I mean, he's probably off the table.
He's probably off the table. Of the ones that were readily available, you have, and we went through it all on our podcast.
Yeah, which was really good.
You have Jimmy Garoppolo.
Mm-hmm.
You have Jameis. Mm-hmm. You have Teddy's a free agent, so you have Teddy. So you know both those guys. Jimmy Garoppolo is a guy I know they were high on in the pre-draft process when he was coming out. You know, there's a wild card names like Mitchell Trubisky, which I checked his stats. They weren't nearly as bad as perhaps the reputation of him.
The narrative
is. And I remember being in Chicago a couple of years ago thinking, wow, they're not helping him at all. The Matt Nagy offense would really, really struggle with some of the concepts they were running. And I threw the name out of Carson Wentz because it certainly feels like that's as non-committal as it gets when it comes to Indianapolis.
Sure.
Another guy whose reputation has faded, but if you look at his stats, other than 1 year, has really played well. He's led teams to the postseason. He's just never actually played in the postseason. So before the offseason started, I wanted the Saints to go and get your guy. The problem is, I don't know if there's one available right now anymore.
Right.
I mean, at that point, it was Sean Payton, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, whatever. But now, I'm not sure that there's a guarantee, sign the check, 5-year, $100 million, or whatever the case may be guy.
Combine today is quarterbacks, okay? I mean, again, a lot of us are going to be tuned into that later on this evening, right? The question is there a guy? And I've said this over and over again. Ian Book is here. You know Ian Book after a year. And we get caught up every year in the quarterbacks in the draft, where, again, we over-evaluate them, and then in a lot of cases move them up the draft basically because they're a quarterback. And you hate to be one of those teams that's chasing a quarterback every single year in the draft. You get nowhere doing that. The question is, are the top guys, Willis, the kid from Ole Miss, Corral, Pickett from Pitt, are they better than what you have right now in Ian Book? And to me, that's the biggest question.
I could see them having a higher ceiling. I went and watched two of Kenny Pickett's games. There's a lot to like there. He's got a lot of experience, a lot like Ian Book in terms of a lot of experience. Played a lot of college football. Was a 4-year starter, 3-year starter, something like that. Corral's a guy who was highly recruited.
He seems to me to have the X factor.
To me, there's something about him that I think you like. There's just something about it. I kind of felt that way about Pickett, too, in a couple of interviews I saw with him as well. Very comfortable in his own
now
skin.
Here comes the hand size deal with Pickett, right?
Yeah, I think it was 8.5 today. I did not see a lot of Malik Willis, and I did not get a chance to watch his practices where he did well at the Senior Bowl. But you made an interesting point. You said you don't want to be a team that's chasing a quarterback, but you got to chase one if you don't have it. And now you're starting to feel the spoil that we had for 15 years with Drew Brees, to not have to worry about that, because it's always going to be at the top of your mind until you guaranteed to have the guy, and they don't have it, and I don't think they're going to have it this offseason with whoever they sign, whether it be Jameis, Teddy, Trubisky, whatever. Any guy like that is probably going to be a 1 or 2 year guy. So until they find the guy, it's always going to be a topic.
A part of me says run it back with Jameis.
I think he's on the. Let me just clarify. I think he's on the radar. I really do. I think he's on the radar.
You can't overpay for him, though. So that's the other thing. You can't get in a bidding war with the Pittsburgh Steelers over Jameis Winston. He's coming off a knee injury.
We don't know the market.
You got a small sample size here, right? As far as him playing in New Orleans and playing at really, I thought at a high level in the games he played.
Let me just say.
Sure.
We don't know if there's going to be a market. We do know there are more quarterback needy teams this year that seem to be playing some musical chairs because it's not a strong draft class. Teams seem to be shedding guys that they have in hopes of getting another one. I'll use Indianapolis, for example. If they shed Carson Wentz or trade him or want to move on from Carson Wentz, well, who are you going to get? Another one of the guys that's coming off of another team?
Right.
But Jameis Winston's case, I think inside the building, they were a little more critical of his play than perhaps we were on the outside because we got lost. He didn't have 30 interceptions.
Yes.
He controlled the ball, made good decisions for the most part, and they went 5-2. So we looked at that's a major improvement. He's going to be a great
with that
franchise
wide receiving core.
True.
Right.
But I think inside the building, I don't think they're at quite as high. I think they're high, but not quite as high as those of us that watched it from the outside.
You also got to think about the running back position now with the Alvin Kamara situation.
Very much.
You know, and is that a situation where you go into the draft and you try to get a cheaper rookie maybe in the second, third round? Do you go for it like what I've been talking about? Go after Leonard Fournette. See if again maybe get a little bit of a hometown discount. He's a guy to catch the ball at the backfield. He's a guy that I think could coexist with Alvin Kamara because he's a physical back. And you're weakening the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the same time, which again would be my strategy in the free agency. Go after Godwin, go after O.J. Howard, go raid the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because you're going to weaken them. But running back is a legitimate need now. Before it was going to be, okay, you needed to get someone. You have Ingram and then Kamara, is going to carry it, and maybe a bridge guy. Maybe Ingram's your bridge guy. But now you need it.
And shame on all of us because we've all been guilty of this over the last 10 years to think you can just plug and play as number 2 back. It can't happen. We saw the drop-off last year. I mean, it's so easy to overreact to what you see in preseason, and we all do it every year. We know better, but we all do it. And for me, the example of that last year was Tony Jones Jr.
Right.
He just was not ready, and I don't think he's smaller than you realize, so I don't think he can be a big type back.
But they need a bigger back, though.
They need a bigger back. A guy like Latavius Murray. Mark Ingram is a guy I think showed his age by the end of the year last year. Was getting injured. I think you got to go in and get a quality. I don't think you can just find anyone and plug them into that role.
Right.
Now there have been undrafted guys that have certainly blossomed. That may be where you can say, okay, maybe I get one of these guys late, but I don't think you can just plug anyone in there and they do well. So I think you look in the draft. I love the idea of a Leonard Fournette because I think playing in that winning organization in Tampa Bay, I think he's at a spot in his career where being back close to home would not be an issue. Sometimes that could be an issue for some. I think he's mature enough to kind of avoid all that. So I think Leonard Fournette, I would love that situation if he were to come back.
He does everything they need him to be well. He can catch the ball at the backfield. He's a great inside runner, and he can protect the quarterback.
1,000%.
Okay? He can protect the quarterback.
And I don't think he needs to be the star.
No, he doesn't.
Getting 300 carries. He did that already.
Right, he can share it with Kamara.
Kamara is not going to last with the numbers he put up last year. You saw the injuries.
No way.
He missed 4 games, the lowest games of his career, and destroyed his carries in terms of his record for personal record for carries in the season. He had more carries last year than he had any other year in his career.
They could be in the same backfield. I mean, with splitting Kamara out.
They could play off each other.
They really could. And to me, it's a no-brainer if you can get him on a good contract. Okay?
I love it.
I mean, and again, Godwin's the other guy. Somebody said, well, he's more of a slot guy. You put Godwin on the field with Michael Thomas, okay? Get out of here, okay? And again, you're weakening your opponent. You're weakening a division opponent. All right. Big question is Marcus Williams. Turned down a top 5 contract last year. Had to be franchised. There's been a little whispers out there they may franchise him again. When you look at it and you're trying to decide, and maybe it does come down to this: Teron Armstead or Marcus Williams. You got a defensive coach in Dennis Allen. Which way is he going?
Not just that, a secondary coach in Dennis Allen.
Right. Great point.
Look, they love Marcus Williams. They do. They think he's got great range. They think he's the best ball hawking. Free safety in the game when it comes to certain coverages. They love Marcus Williams, but Marcus Williams wants to get paid. He wants to get paid like a top 2 or 3 free safety. In my humble opinion, I do not think he's worth that money. I agree. I think the vulnerability on the back end when it comes to tackling is such, because when he misses a tackle, the play is over. It's a touchdown. It's a huge gain. And you have the emergence of P.J. Williams, who was so good last year. Now, I don't think you can just plug him in as free safety and boom, all your problems are solved. But you can offset the blow and at a lower cost. I think that's probably plan B. They're going to negotiate with Marcus Williams, I think. But I think if the price gets too high, I think they're going to walk away from that.
You mentioned P.J. Williams. Now, it's not a lot of money, but again, it's dead money there with the avoidable years, right? $2.3 million you have to eat if you don't re-sign him. I'm on the record as saying, look, I know that Pete Werner is a comer, and I know that, again, that maybe PJ and Quan might be looking for a little bit more money on the open market. But let me say this. I believe there's a niche in New Orleans for those two guys that they can excel, where maybe the pasture may not be greener on the other side by jumping in with another team. This team knows what they can do. This coordinator knows who they are, and they've flourished in this system.
Those are things they have to all consider, both those guys. P.J. Williams hasn't played for another team in his career. Maybe he wants to see what's out there. I mean, my goodness, he's signed more one-year deals than anybody ever seen, and every year he gets better despite being one-year deals.
A lot of it had to do with the DUI a few years ago, but still.
The injury risk, on a one-year deal, and yet he's excelled and he's made big-time plays, can run, can play the run, can blitz, plays well in coverage. So, yeah. Quan Alexander seems to love it here.
Yes.
Somebody offers him another big contract, something I didn't think he would get, given his injury history, but who knows? Maybe he considers it. And it's all about how far under you want to go to sign those guys, and they're capable of doing that. The numbers can certainly work out. But, where do you feel the value is? And I just know when it comes to Mickey Loomis, he sets a value, and that's the range. He doesn't go over. He just doesn't. So if they want more, there will come a time where they say, okay, we're going to cut off the conversation and move on.
All right. We know the MO. Sign your own first, right? Bring those guys back, then fill holes in free agency. Got really almost just 2 weeks until free agency. It's right around the corner. What do you think happens when obviously they're going to get under the cap? Okay, that's the first thing. We know they get under the cap. They're going to have money to be able to spend as well. Where do they go? First, obviously, questions are Ramczyk and Marcus Williams. What do you think happens?
Armstead, Marcus Williams?
Yeah, what do you think? They keep one, keep both? You think they'll let Armstead go? Pretty much said that in the first.
Yeah, I think it's more likely that Williams stays and Armstead walks.
As far as, again, then where do they go? Is it free agency? Are they going to get that wide receiver? Are they going to get that running back? Again, the defense looks like they're in pretty good shape if they can whole serve. Offense is where you need the help. Where do they go?
I think they sign a receiver. I think they probably look at a veteran tight end as well, because that tight end group really missed the veteran presence last year. I think you could certainly get a guy like Fournette. I think it's obvious holes. They're going to sign veterans to fill those holes.
No doubt.
They always have. They always will, especially second wave signings, third wave signings, and then it won't negate any need that they have or any desire to go out and get what they want to get in terms of the draft.
Best available then, right?
Best available then, and then. It really goes, look, they're going to sign it's quarterback, receiver, tight end, running back. All the skill position players.
Right.
Literally, there's a need in every single one of them. So they'll pencil names in, they'll get someone in at those positions, and then when the draft comes, they'll draft best available. But they will still have priority on certain things because Ty, in my opinion, would go to the need at that point.
Veteran quarterback, veteran running back, veteran receiver, veteran tight end. But even in the draft, I think you got to go out and get another receiver, right?
I think so.
You need a young receiver you're grooming, somebody that immediately can come in and immediately.
That can be a dynamic playmaker.
Exactly. Again, maybe you're looking at running back. Quarterback, I don't think it's out the realm possibility, depending on who's there and where you are, and if they fall in love with a player as well.
Quarterback in the draft?
Yes,
absolutely. I still think even if Jameis is back, even if Teddy's back,
I agree.
Even if somehow they make a trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, even if Mitch Trubisky. I think the drafting a quarterback option is very real if they're able to fall in love with
You're talking high. Again, first, second round, right?
Yes. I'm kind of done with the, day three.
Right.
Come on. No. So I'm talking first or second round.
Right. I would agree. And of course, a lot will be. First of all, don't even worry about the cap, ladies and gentlemen. They'll be under the cap. They'll have money to spend. It is, again, who are their targets in the building? The last question for the Saints. It looks like it's going to be selection or again, by committee. Michael Parrington, Kai Harley, Mickey Loomis, Jeff Ireland, and Dennis Allen. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay, well, who's making the final call? We know it was Sean. Are they acquiescing to Dennis Allen because he's the head coach? Is it Mickey saying, look, I'm the GM. I'm making the final call. Is it one of the player personnel directors at the end of the day that are making the final call, whether it be draft or again, free agency?
Draft, I think they're going to lean towards Ireland.
Okay.
Free agents, I think it's going to probably be more Dennis Allen.
Okay.
/ Mickey Loomis.
Right. Parrington's going to give him the board.
Parrington's going to be in the mix as well. I don't know if he's quite up the chain to really command the.
Right.
I want this guy over and offset.
He'll have the grades and he'll have the.
Exactly, but I think draft.
Right.
I think that's going to be Jeff Ireland's baby.
I do too.
Now that the force is out the room and Sean Payton, I think it's who trusted Jeff Ireland a lot, but I think he's going to be the one. Even if he doesn't necessarily sign off on it, I think it's going to be his voice.
Folks, this is the month, March into April, where we're going to see, again, a lot of questions have been asked since Sean Payton's departure answered. And one of the big ones is going to be quarterback. We'll see how that kind of plays out as, again, March 16th, 14th to the 16th, the legal tampering period. March 16th is, again, the start of free agency. Sean Fazende, Fox 8 Sports is our guest. We come back, we talk basketball here on Inside New Orleans. Don't go anywhere.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Sean Fazende, Fox 8 Sports, is our guest. All right. We got some good news to talk about when it comes to the Pelicans.
Check them out.
Come on, are you serious? Come on. Pelicans are 26-36. They're 6-4 in their last 10. They're in the 10th slot now. They're 1.5 games out of the 9th slot for the Los Angeles Lakers, are again precariously holding on to. They've won 3 in a row since the All-Star break, beating Phoenix in Phoenix. Now, again, that was without CP3. They beat Los Angeles, the Lakers in Los Angeles, without Anthony Davis, and they look like they weren't even interested in playing. But a W is a W is a W. And then last night, again, Sacramento Kings in the Smoothie King Center, 125-95. All 3 teams held under 100 points. When you talk about the wins, there are 20 games left. In the season. Utah, we don't say Jazz on this program. They come to town on Friday night. That is going to be a real litmus test on if this is real or if this is just a team that caught a couple teams that are injured and really weren't ready to play. I had the feeling, and I hate to put the whammy because I do that all the time, but I had a feeling that as soon as C.J. McCollum got acclimated, they were going to go on a little bit of a run here. They won a little bit of a run before, and then they had to, they got discombobulated because, again, you're losing Hart and Naw, and of course now you're bringing in C.J. McCollum, who is a ball-dominant player, but is still a facilitator. In a very short period of time, both him and Brandon Ingram have learned how to coexist on the court. That is huge for this team. And of course, you're seeing guys that are now making the adjustment. McCollum has said all the right things, has been the right player. Look, I'm already on the record, Sean, and I'd like you to I think he's the best guard we've seen in New Orleans, with all due respect to Drew Holiday, since Chris Paul. I mean, I just look at him, his ability to score, create off the dribble, again, facilitate, rebound, I mean, he's the full package for this team. They are in good position now to be able to hold on to the 10th seed. Now, look, you lose a couple games, Portland's right behind you. Right. And Sacramento's right behind them. So, again, it is a race to the finish here, but maybe a possibility of moving up to the 9th spot. And, oh, by the way, if the Lakers fall out of the playoff race and they fall out of the play-in tournament and they get into the lottery and they're a top 10 pick, the pick reverts to the Pelicans. So, wow.
So, can we just pause for a second.
Right.
Because we've ripped him a lot.
Yes.
And give some credit where credit is due to David
No doubt
Griffin.
about it.
Think about that. Think about how well they're playing for this coach.
Absolutely.
And we were like, what is this guy doing when he got rid of Van Gundy, his third coach in 3 years? Look how they gravitated to him. It was the right choice,
No doubt.
right guy.
No doubt.
The deal for McCollum. You just made the point about the Lakers, which could end up being another Pelicans draft pick. Hey, we rip them when they do wrong, but you got to praise them when they do well. And guess what? I think maybe he's finding himself a little bit with some of these moves, and he's starting to see kind of his imprint on the organization. But you said a lot there. I'll just say this about McCollum. Is it just me, or they've kind of everyone's gravitated to what feels like a leadership qualities? You hear him when he talks.
A guy that's done it. It's been there, right?
There's an ease. There's a smoothness. There's just there's something about him that people seem to be gravitating to him.
Sean, they've been searching for it for a long time. Look, they've got a young team. And that's one of the things that you kind of say to yourself, well, you're going to get another draft pick. Look, their pick is only 1 to 5 protected. It's either going to Carolina for Graham, or it's going to Portland for C.J. McCollum. So the only pick you're going to have is the Laker pick if it's there. But a veteran presence to come in and what he's been able to do already.
Yeah, he's already talked to the media probably more since he's gotten here. And if you really listen to him and you kind of just feel out the vibe, it almost feels like he's been here a long time. And it's been here, what, a week and a half, 2 weeks he's been here?
Look, I don't know if Josh Hart got his ear, embraced the culture. He's done it.
He's done it, man. And I think he said something interesting before the game yesterday, because I ran it in my show. He said, because I think it was a little bit of self-awareness. He goes, I tend to hold on to the ball a little bit, so I got to be a little bit better with this. So there's a very much, all right, the newness is worn off. Now they're in the mindset of finding chemistry, finding ways to coexist with each other. And you knew that was going to happen once they got on a post All-Star. Now they've won 3 straight games. It was Ingram's night last night. He was on fire.
33 last night.
I think Ingram's better when he has a guy like McCollum with him
to play off of.
That style. Because I was a little concerned the first couple times I watched McCollum. I was like, man, he scores a lot, but man, there's sometimes he comes down and no one else touches the ball. But they seem to have figured that out a little bit. And look, they're playing with confidence. The key now is you're still the 10 seed.
Right.
Don't get ahead of yourself. Right. And that, I think, is where the leadership and the maturity of a guy like McCollum comes in. And not just with the players. I think a rookie head coach can lean on that as well. And I think you're starting to see that as well. So I think Willie Green's done a phenomenal job with rotations and when it comes to like personal relationships. But a guy like McCollum can be the bridge from a young coach and a young team, can be the bridge. And I think you're seeing that. So keep this thing going. We'll see what happens against Utah on Friday. But how can you not at least be somewhat excited about the Pelicans right now?
I mean, you have to be. I mean, there's no other way around. If you're a basketball fan, you have to be. And again, look, shut out the noise from the national media about, again, the team leaving and Zion this, Zion that. Concentrate on what you have right now. And look, I agree with you. You give Griffin a lot of credit in turning it around, but it was at a cost, right? I mean, you gave up number 1 picks that, again, you were supposed to be stockpiling for later to be able to make up for those mistakes. But with that said, he turned it around this year. Valanciunas coming in, McCollum. You hate to lose a Josh Hart and a Alexander Walker, but again,
would you rather have them or McCollum right now?
McCollum, and look, let me say this. And Tony Snell and Larry Nance Jr., who's not been on the court yet.
Right.
Okay. This is a trade that the Pelicans won and won by a mile. Because you're bringing in again 3 veteran players who know how to play in the postseason and know how to play. Yeah. Snell's been almost shooting 50% from the 3-point line. Larry Nance is a guy that will fit immediately because he's not a guy that's ball dominant. Yeah. He doesn't need the ball. As ball dominant as C.J. McCollum is, he's a facilitator and a rebounder. And you've seen now just, again, his ability to be able to get guys open. You move now Graham to the bench. Again, he seems to have a lot less pressure on him now. He's shooting the ball better. Their rotation seems to be more solid than it was even at times before the All-Star break when they were playing good basketball.
Yeah, all of it. And, it's happening. It's happening on the court. It's happening right in front of us. And it's something to watch. And it really is something, Willie Green kind of reminds me of a young Monty Williams a little bit.
I agree.
I mean, he coached under Monty Williams, so he kind of reminds me of him a little bit. So You got 20 games, 6 weeks left, and hey man, let's not stop now. Let's finish this thing out strong, because even if you get a 9 seed or a 10 seed, which is obviously a lower seed, but you catch fire, you catch some momentum, you never know what could happen. So play this thing out and let's let it ride.
You know, Sean, another thing I've noticed with C.J. McCollum, that something they've missed for a long time is he's a big shot taker, he's a big shot maker, right? But when the offense bogs down, he has the ability to create his shot or to create for someone else. And that's something they haven't had for a while. Hayes is now flourishing at the 4. His athleticism is on display at the 4, and could stay at that 4 position even when Zion comes back, because then you have 2 different type of 4s at that point. We
just got to Zion. We talked to Pelicans for like the last 5 minutes, just getting to Zion.
Which is where we're going now.
Look, what was that statement yesterday?
Imaging shows the bone is healing.
It was like 8 words.
Right. He will begin weight-bearing exercise and basketball activities. No word on whether he will return this season.
Out indefinitely.
Right.
I think everyone that's playing on the court right now is completely resigned to the fact that they're not going to have Zion this year. And if he comes back, great. And then almost to the point now where let's just say he gets healthy enough and cleared in time for the playoffs. Is that worth it?
You want to break the chemistry.
Is that worth it?
For a ball down
for
the
a guy like that?
Right.
That's such a unique player, such a unique style. To everyone have to kind of recalibrate their game a little bit at that time. So I do not think Zion is going to play this year, because that was still another vaguely worded statement to give. They must have got a slight bit of good news and they wanted to get it out there, or at least provided some kind of update. But it sounds to me like the organization is, all right, that's fine. Zion's doing what he's doing, but we got a special thing here going right now with these young kids, and we're going to see if we can ride it out.
With this guy, I mean, again, let's face it. They get into we're forecasting here. They get into the playoffs. Let's say they get past they get into the play-in round, they get past that, and they're in the playoffs. Do you bring him in? Do you have him coming off the bench? I mean, would he be willing to come off the bench and give you 15 minutes a game? I mean, he didn't like the burst minutes before. Again, see, to me, he's got to come in and reacclimate himself to this team, because it's a different team. He hadn't been here all year long. Yeah. He hadn't been with Willie Green. This culture, this new culture, he's not part of it. So, I mean, maybe it is a thing that you hold off and you say, when I rush this dude back, maybe it's next year.
I think you're starting to see like a little bit of like they're still on the line just in case things start to slip a little bit and they may need him. I understand that. But, the days of Zion demands on the court, I don't know if there was ever a big thing inside the organization, but if he comes back and wants 40-plus minutes or whatever the case may be, like, you have lost that spot. You don't have that pull anymore. Right. You don't have that clout anymore. I mean, your name is bigger on the national scene than it is really locally, for those that honestly watch the games right now. So if he comes back and he's ready and the Pelicans feel like it's worth to give him 15 minutes, so be it. It's not Zion saying, I want 15 to 20 minutes or 30 minutes. It's the Pelicans doing what's best for the Pelicans. And if that means Zion not playing, which is where we're at right now, and then so be it. And you just got to wait till next year.
All right. Last week, All-Star Weekend, it blew up. You had the situation with C.J. McCollum, with the CMT crew, having talked to Zion since then. That's been rectified. They've talked. Even C.J. McCollum said to me last week, give the young fella a break. He's trying to be able to get back from injury. Look, we know that. It's hard when you're injured, you're away from the team. It is what it is. But then the J.J. Redick situation on that Tuesday after the All-Star break, where he kind of pulled back the shroud on Zion, saying that again, he talked to him about the buy-in when he was here. Again, as a veteran, he pointed out what he needed to do to be vested in his team, in his body, everything else, and then called him a detached player. Said what's going on with him is insane. I mean, those are big words from a guy that on the way out trashed this organization.
A guy, for the most part, is well respected within NBA circles, both from players and organizations, and just kind of the media circles. Seems to have a pretty good kind of feel for the way business is conducted.
Fellow Dookie, fellow CA guy.
So yeah, I mean, it certainly carried a lot of weight. And to me, call me crazy, but the C.J. McCollum, the initial thing that started it off to me was calculated. I think that was hey man, we need to talk. And he did it subtly. Right. But I think that was doing what a leader does. Is like, we still need to talk. Come on now, it's time. And now you see you see CJ back off a little bit because they talked.
Right.
That was his way of just throwing it out there. Hey, man, this is the way we got to do it here.
Right.
And trust me, I'm a veteran. I understand. And then when you have another veteran who just recently retired, obviously, say the same thing, or I guess take it to another level, you see what happens. But, you know, this whole thing about Zion being young and he's a young guy, and it's not like, look, man, he's been on a pedestal since he was probably 14 years old.
Right.
So, you know, I understand we've all been young, but not all of us have been on that pedestal. So that kind of comes with the superstar package. You know, that kind of comes with the limelight. So when stuff like this is happening, you got to be, you know, willing to do it, take it. But in Zion's case, talk.
Right.
Speak. Do something. Like all you have to say, I love my time here. We'll see what happens in the future. Done. You leave everything open to speculation, and to me, that's his camp working.
Right.
That situation.
And I want to go back. What is it? Lee Williamson. I'm sorry. His stepfather is supposedly the guy that's really driving the train here, and also one of his personal trainers. Now I understand he was an AAU coach at one time. But my gosh, if you're up at Nike, you better have more than your stepfather being your personal trainer, okay, at this point. Aaron Nelson, they invested, give Spencer a lot of credit. She had reinvested in the Pelicans. State-of-the-art medical facility, state-of-the-art training facility. Go out and get Aaron Nelson. I may not agree. I think Aaron Nelson is, again, maybe too, he's a little bit more cautious with his players than maybe he should be, but it is what it is. Zion needs to get with the program that's here now. Okay, not that they need to get with the Zion program.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's going to happen. You expect him back this year?
I don't. I mean, until I see some sort of clear optimism in these statements that they send out with the big thing that says Zion Williamson medical update, until I read it and think, okay, yes, this is them saying he's on the way back. I am on the side of he's not playing until.
Did you read anything into him not being in the season ticket renewal pamphlet?
Yeah, I mean, he's been the marketing chip since he's been here.
That's right.
Season tickets.
Right.
He's not in the picture.
Right.
Of course. Absolutely.
Was that a shot against the bow? Was that telling him, look, get with the program, Zion?
That's it. I think that's their way of saying you have lost the leverage here.
Right.
Like we are doing things without you, and you are right now you are damaged goods. I mean, it's just that simple.
Think about it. This team goes 1-12. They're in the 10th seed now. It's a remarkable turnaround. Everything that we've asked for in terms of a culture change has happened.
Right.
Got a young and up-and-coming coach. Reminds you a lot of Sean Payton when he took over here in New Orleans. And, of course, again, they brought in the veteran they've been looking for. They finally figured out, again, a rotation. Man, if you're Zion, it should be everything you want.
Exactly. This should be a spot. This should be kind of
this should be like saying,
and you got
I'm the missing link.
Right.
I'm the guy that come and get us over the top.
Right. Well, I don't understand the NBA when it comes to stuff like that. They get you don't see that in the NFL as much. You see it in the NBA, these stars and these bigger markets or whatever the case may be. They look so down on these smaller markets. You just don't see that in the NFL.
Look what's going on. I mean, outside of the Lakers in the bubble, which ones have succeeded? Okay, you can say Miami when LeBron went there, but for the most part, these super teams have done nothing.
Right.
Done nothing. Let's go to college game. Let's talk about LSU first. Boy, about a tough loss last night at Arkansas, 77-76. They got Alabama on Saturday to close out the season. They're 20-10. They're 8-9. They're 8th in the SEC. Now again, they've been in the tournament, forecasting the tournament all season long. It's tough going in there if you're 8-10 in the SEC. They almost put themselves in a position now where they got to win a game or two in the SEC tournament. I didn't see Lenardi's bracketology this morning, but I got to feel that again, if they lose to Alabama on Saturday and they go 8-10 in the SEC, that's tough.
And it's to the point where they win that game last night. I think book it. They're in.
Right.
Okay, it's 14th ranked team. Book it. They're in. Now they lost. I'm not even sure a win against Alabama guarantees. They're probably going to have to do some things in the SEC tournament. If they make a decent run in the SEC tournament, I think they get in. They're going to be a bubble team. It's just how it is.
Right.
They've been up and down all year. They don't have a score.
They just haven't been consistent.
In some games they're good at scoring. Some games they're terrible at defense. Some games they're a defensive team. Sometimes they can't score. Like it's probably when you add up the talent, the roster, this is probably what they're supposed to be because they're a little inconsistent in other areas. But it's a shame because there's been opportunities for growth, and last night was just a heartbreaker.
It really was. On the other hand, Tulane, again, 12-13. They're 9-7. Again, Cook is out tonight against UCF, which is going to hurt them. Jalen Cook has carried that team for the most part. They're in 6th place in the American. The only shot they got to get in the postseason would be, again, to win the American tournament. And that's going to be tough to do with their, they got some really good teams in the American. UNO, a little bit of a slide here at the end of the season. 17-11, they're 10-3 now in the Southland. They're in 2nd place. Nichols is in 1st place. They beat Houston Baptist last night 75-74, but they got to win on Saturday, or they fall out of, again, the opportunity to get the bye, the double bye, and the opportunity to be able to, first of all, winning the conference championships assures you of an NIT bid, but then you got to be able to win the conference tournament to get into the NCAA.
Yeah. Close one last night. Watching the UNO in and then LSU in, it was crazy in the Fox 8 Sports office. So got to regroup. I know Celeste can do it. They won 1 by 1. It was kind of they were down. They were in a hole. Yeah. A hole last night. They were able to battle back. I still think though, just let's see how they finish out, and once they get into that tournament, I think they have a chance here. I still think UNO. I still think they're in the driver's seat to get in.
I do too. I think in the Southland, if they're on, their guards are on, they're going to be a tough out.
Exactly.
I think they are. Okay. They got to play smart though. The team that I'm with just a minute or so left, that again, that's the spotlight on, might be the best team in the city, which is Loyola. 31-1. 17-1 in their conference. They win the conference championship, regular season, and the tournament. They're going to the NIA tournament. The games will be at Tulane in the first round for both the women's and the men. Mm-hmm. Okay, so again, you're looking at a chance at they're still 2nd ranked in the NAIA, but a chance for a national championship.
Of course, we're not talking about just making a tournament there. We're talking about a national championship for Loyola. So. Hey man, good things uptown. This is the most I've talked about Loyola basketball in forever this year. So kudos.
Most I ever talked about Loyola is when the Jazz played the field out.
Right.
Are you kidding me?
Right.
but now, so really good. Hopefully, we see a couple teams getting into the tournament. UNO, LSU, maybe again somebody else Tulane can sneak in, but it's going to be very, very tough. And then, of course, they have those other tournaments, so maybe we'll see some postseason basketball. Yep. Sean, as always, thanks so much for joining us on the program. Always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Glad to be here.
Sean was in Fox 8 Sports. Again, his award-winning blog, the podcast, outstanding, and, of course, all the great shows over at Fox 8. All right, thanks so much for tuning in. Plenty of ways to catch our program now. We are so blessed with the rebroadcast. First rebroadcast is tonight at 6 p.m. on WLAE-TV, then 10 o'clock on The Deuce. On Friday night, 9 o'clock Pelican Sports Television, 10 o'clock on WLAE-TV. If you're up at 2 a.m. on Saturday morning, you can catch us on on The Deuce. Pelican Sports Television at 5 p.m. on Pelican Sports Television on Saturday afternoon. Always at ericasher.com, always on the WLAE-TV YouTube page, always on our social media platforms, at Eric_Asher on Twitter, Eric Asher on Facebook, Inside New Orleans Show on Instagram. Catch me on the radio, 4 to 6, 106.1 FM. And of course, you can listen live on the digital platforms. That's the iHeartRadio app, the TuneIn Radio app, ericasher.com, and of course NashFM 106.1.com on the World Wide Web. Our podcast is everywhere. Anchor is our home base, so you can check out the show at your leisure on the podcast. All right, special thanks to our underwriters who make this show possible. Fantastic underwriters. Some of those guys have been with us since the inception of this program. We appreciate it. Please support our underwriters. It's how we can bring this show to you each and every week. Also, the great staff here at WLAE-TV do a fantastic job in putting together programming, not just the programming here, but again, great programming across the board. Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, also Logan Graffia, Alex Chacon, and the best director of the business, bar none, my director, William Hill. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. For Sean Fazende, I'm Eric Asher. Have a great week.